everybody out there. Kevin Pillow, host of Prep Sports Weekly, alongside Jim Eisenacher and Phillip Catalfamo here at La Quinta High School at the Nest. It is a scrimmage night. Phil, we'll start with you. This is the matchup that we've been wanting to see, but it wasn't the real matchup we want to see. It's just a scrimmage. But what do you think so far of the beginning of what could be a dynasty in the DVL next year, Shadow Hills versus La Quinta?
La Quinta's defense is still one of the best defenses, and Shadow Hills offensively needs to figure out what they need to do, what their identity is, because without Isaiah Ortega-Dage, they don't have that 1-2 punch of running back, quarterback.
Now, they do. We did get to see a little bit of Seth Morales. He was wearing number 5 tonight. He looked good, had that pro-style look of a quarterback, something we have not seen at Shadow Hills ever. Maybe year one there was we had a couple of good looks at quarterback. For the most part, Shadow Hills has not had a good-looking quarterback. This was a good field for them. We still don't know what the status is on Seth Morales for week 0, nor the next 3 weeks after that. Jim, what'd you think of Seth Morales, the whole situation to the side, forget that, as the quarterback on the field, Shadow Hills passing the ball? What'd you think of Seth Morales tonight?
Seth Morales looked like a guy who could actually step into this team and actually contribute right away, as opposed to you got other quarterbacks that transfer in from different systems who take a little while to hit the ground running, but Isaac Ortega came right out. Or Seth Morales, I apologize, came right out, and unlike what they had in previous years, you actually have to worry about a quarterback that's more than just a dual threat, because his dual threat is he can actually throw the ball. As last year, I believe we had a touchdown interception ratio of 6-6, which is something that you're not really going to get that well. So I thought it was very, very good debut here.
You and I were sharing text messages, Phil, during the first half of the scrimmage, and you seemed a bit disappointed with Shadow Hills taking the play-by-play. They were timid. They were a little scared, maybe even a little, maybe on the other side, a little excited. Still, that first half, they shut down La Quinta inside the red zone, kept them out of the end zone. They did allow one interception. It was a pick 6 by, I believe it was Katie Lang. J.D. Lang. I'm sorry. Katie Lang's the singer. That's the kind of show we are, guys. JD, he looked good. Maybe a little immature. He throws his pick 6, but you have to take it into consideration. Going into halftime of this scrimmage, if there is a halftime, they're still playing. They only allowed La Quinta to score 7 points. Not bad for a team that looked timid, scared, and a little uneasy.
See, that's exactly what they were. They looked even a little unconditioned, if I could say that. This team, they're going up against a team that went deep in the playoffs, a solid defense. Their offense is absolutely incredible in La Quinta, and Shadow Hills went in there kind of, I'll go with excited. I don't want to say scared, because I am a knight, or I was a knight, and this is a lot of reminiscing memories of our transition period from when our first set of seniors left to the team that was out there about 2 years ago, who couldn't really hang around with the big boys and didn't do a whole lot. So I'm keeping my hopes high, and hopefully Shadow Hills will be able to do something this season.
Flip side, let's talk about La Quinta. Jim, obviously you don't have Turbo anymore. They still have Michael Levine at quarterback. They do seem to have a couple of tailbacks by committee, so they might still be good at the running back position, but we saw Michael Levine like to air the ball out. Sorry, that's my iPad, my Apple Watch. I know you're going to make me run laps tomorrow morning. I know. This is the first time we've been on TV or on an iPad. But Jim, They look solid at the quarterback position. What did you think of La Quinta on the offensive side of the ball tonight?
The best thing about La Quinta on the offensive side of the ball is they got back to the heart of what they were about 5, 6, 7 years ago, and that is a dominating presence in the offensive line. Where in years past, I likened them to a lot of the 90s Denver Broncos in the early 2000s, where you could plug a running back in there and you're going to get 1,000, 1,500-yard rusher. And, like you said, we had tailback by committee tonight, and there was a lot of big gains that were ripped off, and it was something that, as a former Aztec, scares me. If La Quinta can get back to their early 2000s form, the DVL has to be worried once again.
I think all three of us can be in agreement that as dominant as the offensive line was tonight with La Quinta High School, I think the defensive line was stellar for La Quinta tonight. They really stuck it to a very staunch running attack by Shadow Hills. Tony Williams looked good. He's in preseason form. He's not in midseason form, but he looked good tonight. But that defensive line, he stuck Tony on a couple of really good hits. Matter of fact, I talked with Tony late in that first quarter, and he really kind of he love that hit that he got hit with. What did you think of the defensive presence, especially the defensive line tonight with La Quinta High School?
Dominating. It's a team again that's going to just shut down the run. They're going to they're keeping the dominance. They're a good squad.
The thing is I don't want to take anything away from La Quinta. As we've said all night, they have a dominating presence in the front four. Shadow Hills' offensive line, we're coming straight up out of their stance, standing straight up, just allowing the pass rush to get through. So when you already have a dominating pass rush in the Blackhawks, it's kind of scary when you have your left tackle standing straight up off the ball and just kind of doing a little reach. So that's something you don't have to worry about for very long in a Shipley coach team. He's going to whip that into shape very fast.
Season begins next Friday, week 0, August 28th. A lot of games going to be going on. La Quinta will be on the road. Shadow Hills at home against Paris. They lost to Paris last year. Actually, I believe that was one of 2 losses for the Knights last year. The cat is out of the bag. Play-by-play will be back on Team 1010 starting next Friday. Of course, we won't tell you where we will be next Friday. You'll have to listen to Prep Sports Weekly tomorrow morning. Any games that kind of stand out to you now that we're going to be doing play-by-play? Are there some games on this schedule? Phil, I'll start with you. You've seen the schedule. It's kind of a carbon copy of what we saw last year with most of these teams. Is there a game that stands out to you on this schedule that you want to do the play-by-play for this year?
This one, Shadow Hills La Quinta. That's the one I want to do.
Well, that game we're not going to get until 2016. We're talking about 2015 right now. What's the game on the schedule right now you want to see 2015?
Look, I just want to see Shadow Hills, their first game. I need to know, as a former Knight, I need to know that this is just early season jitters and that our first game, no problem.
Jim, for you, what's the game that jumps out at you? You said you're an Aztec, so I've got to imagine maybe that flag game, it's right in the middle of the season, is something you'd like to see. Can the Aztecs get back into winning form, actually get a football on that flag and take one away from La Quinta? But that aside, what's a game you're looking forward to for 2015?
With that aside, the game I'm most looking forward to is the grudge match between the Aztecs and the Xavier Saints in the rematch of the Kings of Cook Street, because I feel a lot of people weren't taking Xavier serious the first time they played. Come back, make that big overtime victory, so it's going to be fun now that they actually have a real established rivalry after one game.
That game will come in week 10. It will be at Palm Desert, Kings of Cook Street 2. Can the Aztecs get revenge? Pat Blackburn said on the Coaches Series, that is a game that the players want to win. They actually are looking forward to that game more than La Quinta, which, of course, comes in what would amount to, I believe, week 5, first week of the league season for the Desert Valley League. Real quick, we'll talk about this more tomorrow morning on Prep Sports Weekly, but I know the big story today was the fact that Indio High School and Coachella Valley High School are going to end their rivalry for at least 2 years, starting in 2016. Now, we are hearing some rumors floating from within the school districts that maybe there is a solution on the horizon. We'll talk about that tomorrow morning on Prep Sports Weekly, but real quick, Jim, I'll start with you. You're familiar with the Desert Valley League. You're familiar with this rivalry. It's been, not that they've been around for the 60 years it's been going on, but you're familiar with the rivalry. If this rivalry does not take place, even though they're not playing the DVL anymore, CV's going to the Deanza League. If this rivalry, this series doesn't take place, how big of a hit is this to the community of Coachella and Indio?
This game goes well beyond players on a field. We're talking generations. You know, when you got a new school like a La Quinta, established roughly around the year 2000, and a school like Palm Desert, 86, there's a rivalry there, but we're talking about 60 plus years worth of rivalry. Grandparents have played against each other, and you can tell when they show out, that place is standing room only. So it's a huge blow, like you said, to the community. But honestly, I feel to the families who maybe have kids or family on both sides of the rivalry. I certainly know a couple. I'm sure some of you guys do as well. That's a bragging rights game right there, and it's a shame. It's a shame.
Phil, you covered 2 years in a row. You've covered the Date Bowl, which is Desert Mirage versus CV. We know that Coachella takes rivalries very seriously. The Date Bowl maybe not as big of a deal as the Bell Bowl is. We haven't covered a Bell Bowl. We might have to this year because it could be the last. You've been around the city of Indio. You've been around the city of Coachella when they do rivalries. What do you think of this? Whether or not it does come back or goes away in 2016, how big of a blow to the communities of Coachella and Indio is this of having this rivalry potentially not just in football but all sports? This is a huge deal in wrestling. This is a huge deal in girls basketball. This is a big deal in cross country and track and field. This head-to-head matchup is a big deal between Coachella and the Rajas of Indio.
Look, I think you guys said it. The community-wise, this is one of those games where you look at states like Alabama and Texas and whatnot, where they shut down the city for a football game. This is sort of like that. You get everyone to come in and watch this game, and this is a big community game. And you guys have already said it, that it's a huge blow. It's an extremely big blow to not only the sport, to the school, to the fans. I really hope that they decide not to stick around to stick around at least for a little longer than to just drop it, because you can't drop a huge rivalry like this.
Well, you can tell it's a bunch of rookies doing television for the first time. I've got my watch dinging. We've probably shifted a little bit to the right on camera, but who cares? It's three guys talking about high school football. It's going to be a fun year. I personally am looking forward to the Mike Gates game, Palm Springs versus La Quinta. It's always it's a slobber knocker. If I could pick a couple other games out of the schedule, Joshua Springs versus Desert Christian should be a great game. I think the Kings of Cook Street is going to be huge, but I think the Mercury Bowl between Palm Desert and Palm Springs could potentially, well, it used to be called the Mercury Bowl, but we'll call it that for the sake of argument, could be a deciding factor. But I really think that one of the biggest games on the schedule is going to be the combination of Xavier and Palm Desert, Xavier and Coachella, Palm Desert and Coachella. That's three teams I think are going to be right in the mix of a possible third-place berth in the CIF playoffs. We can't sleep on Cathedral City, but they're very, very young. India's still rebuilding as well. There's a lot to be had in this 2015 football season. Arguably one of the most talked about, because we're here at a scrimmage football season, is the 2015 year, probably since 2012, with guys like Kyle Kaber and whatnot. So should be a lot of fun. I'm Kevin Phillip for Jim Eisenacher and Philip Catalfamo. We'll see you tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. Prep Sports Weekly on the Valley Sports.